Welcome to another episode of the Go Flush Yourself podcast with Jared Kirk and Matt Milbauer. Hey listeners, I want to thank our sponsor, Bird Hunter Supply, your go-to for premium hunting gear at birdhuntersupply.com. This family-owned business run by a husband and wife team from Idaho is driven by their love for bird hunting, dog training, and the great outdoors. For them, hunting is a treasured family tradition. Think crisp mornings in the field and the thrill of the chase and those irreplaceable moments with dogs, family, and friends. They've built Bird Hunter Supply to share that passion, curating high-quality gear to help you create your own lasting hunting memories with your crew. Whether you're a beginner or a seasoned hunter, Bird Hunter Supply has you covered with top-notch equipment from dog training tools to hunting apparel, backed by exceptional customer service to make your experience unforgettable. Best of all, they're deeply committed to preserving the wild spaces we love. When you shop at birdhuntersupply.com, you can choose at checkout to direct a percentage of your order to conservation powerhouses like Pheasants Forever, Rough Grouse Society, or Delta Waterfowl. Your purchase helps these groups protect vital habitats and sustain the wildlife that makes our sport possible, ensuring hunting traditions thrive for generations. Visit birdhuntersupply.com today, explore the carefully selected gear, and support a family-run business dedicated to both hunters and the outdoors. That's birdhuntersupply.com. Gear up, hunt with purpose, and help preserve the wild. Hey, welcome to another episode of the Go Flush Yourself podcast. This is Matt, not here with my co-host Jared. You've heard me do solo episodes before with the history of podcasts we've been doing, the Cocker Spaniel, the Labrador Retriever, the Duck Stamp, etc., etc. This is a little different from that, if you could tell by the title. This is a book review of a book I just finished reading. It's been on my shelf since Christmas, and I picked it up and started reading it. And I loved it. Absolutely loved it, and I thought I need to share this with the listeners, and not just in a social media post, which I'll probably do as well. But I wanted to share it with you all here on the podcast and kind of go through what made this book special. That book is Wingshooting the Palouse, Pursuing American Upland Tradition from Eastern Washington, is the subtitle. So the main title, Wingshooting the Palouse by Bradley A. Trumbo. Brad Trumbo is kind of a local to my area. As you know, I'm also in Eastern Washington, as with Jared. In the Columbia Basin, the Palouse is a region kind of northeast of the Columbia Basin. It's kind of a part of the Columbia Basin, I guess, in a way, but it's definitely its own distinct region. And Brad's kind of known in the area here. He's very involved in the Pheasants Forever chapter over in his county, which is just next door to ours. And obviously through this book, amongst other things in the upland hunting and kind of outdoor conservation space. So picking up this book for me was kind of a no-brainer, with it being local to me. And then about wing shooting, you're pretty much touching everything I need to pick up a book and read it. And I'm really glad I did. I read it like in 2 days. I just couldn't put it down. I kept just coming back to it and reading and just wanting to read one after the other, one kind of essay or section here after another. As I'm reading it, I had moments where I had to stop and get on Onyx or kind of just like it, I guess to explain that, to get on Onyx, because I was like, oh, I got excited. I can't wait for hunting season to come back around. Like, the book just got me excited to go hunting. If I could, and it was legal and it was late, since I read this mostly at night, I would have grabbed my shotgun, put the book down, grabbed my shotgun, grabbed the spaniels, threw them in the Ford, and gotten out there. It just made me want to be out there, right? Out there, like you all know that feeling. If you're anything like me and Jared, you know that feeling of just, you want to get out and go hunting, and this book just put me there. It helps that it was from probably a region that I'm familiar with personally. But a lot of the places he's hunting, I've never have hunted. He's, like I said, a little further east than me, and I don't touch those places as much as he would, and probably the same as him to the areas I hunt. But I think anyone who picks this book up, and this is not an ad. This is not, this is just my free-flowing opinion here and thoughts on this book. I think you should pick it up and give it a read. There's links in the description about where you can find this book and more information, that kind of thing. If you're interested, you do want to pick it up. But it was really, really good. So let's get started. I'm going to kind of go through. I have some notes here. I kind of want to go through kind of my thoughts on Wingshooting the Palouse by Brad Trumbo. And we'll go ahead. So grab a drink of choice. What do you got? I have a 0 sugar Mountain Dew. The official drink of Go Flush Yourself, at least at the Milbauer household. Grab a coffee, grab a beer, whatever you got. Let's settle in. Let's talk about why this collection from Trumbo is worth your time. I think it's phenomenal. We'll get into why here in a second. All right, first off, some basics about the book. Wingshooting the Palouse came out in 2022. It's a paperback collection of, I guess it's like a loose collection of essays, but they're very thematically, and a lot of it ties together. You should read them in the way they're written. It's not a massive read. It's 180 pages, so it's something you can get through relatively quickly. But it's one of those ones you don't want to end, so you're going to wish it was more than that. It's concise, but it's really rich. It's packed with the personal narratives, and it's not like a step-by-step. It's not a guide. It's not the guides. It's narratives from Trumbo about his experiences with his dogs in the field. So like I said earlier, Trumbo's based out of Eastern Washington. And the Palouse, I guess, is really his home turf, and that's what he's writing about here. You'll learn in the book that he's originally from the East Coast. He's not from the Pacific Northwest, the inland Northwest, but he's definitely made it home here from what I can tell in this book. But the Palouse is really his home turf. It's rolling wheat fields, CRP lands, coulees, which you learn about in the book. He does a good job at describing what those are. Bunch grass kind of hills that stretch across Whitman, if you're kind of curious where it's at, Whitman, Garfield, I guess Columbia, Walla Walla counties in southeastern, eastern Washington state. Now, I keep saying the word the Palouse. It's in the title of the book, and you might be wondering, what the heck is the Palouse? You're saying it's this region in Washington. If you're from eastern Washington, maybe even just the Pacific Northwest, you're familiar with it because Washington State University is in kind of the heart of the Palouse in Pullman, Washington, and if you watch college sports and ever see that team play football or basketball or something, they're always talking about the Palouse. But what is it really? It's how do I describe it? It's so a lot of and he actually describes this in the book, but a lot of Eastern Washington's been carved out by floods from 10, 15,000 years ago. After the last ice age, these giant floods came through and ripped away a lot of our topsoil here down to the basalt bedrock and made kind of staggering canyons and scablands, as they're called, throughout eastern Washington. But the Palouse was kind of untouched. It still has the loess, the wind-blown silt is what loess is, and it's blown into these hills. And I guess one way to think about it, if you're trying to picture what it looks like, imagine classic sand dunes you'll see, like if you're of my age and you're a little kid watching Aladdin, you remember the beginning of the movie. Remember all the big sand dunes? And they're going through the sand dunes and trying to find whatever they're trying to find. Anyhow, like imagine that, but imagine that covered in grasses and wheat fields. So in the spring, it's just rolling ripples of green. And then, as the summer comes, it turns golden as the wheat turns it's yellow, brown, gold color, and it's just this kind of bumpy, wavy area that's just different than the rest of eastern Washington, which, like I said, is you get a lot of bedrock exposed from those floods that ripped away all of that loess that the Palouse still retains, and it really makes the Palouse a great breadbasket, meaning it grows a lot of dryland wheat. In the Palouse, and it's what it's known for. And there's actually thanks to some of the dams, and that's a whole other thing we should get to later, is the damming of the Snake River. But we won't get into that here. But there's a lot of dams in the Snake River and the Columbia that allow barges essentially to get all the way into Idaho, deep into the Palouse, to collect that wheat and take it all the way back down the river systems to the ocean. So it has actually an ocean port in the middle of this dry wheatland, hilly, classical upland, but also extremely unique area. Hopefully that helps define the Palouse for you and gives you an idea of where these stories are taking place. And I'm not giving spoilers from this book. I really like you to read it, but I was going to give you my thoughts on it. It centers obviously around, I think it's obvious because we're talking about it here, on upland bird hunting, and mainly wild birds that he's hunting on public land, or I guess land accessible to the public, in Washington State. He also covers some in North Dakota, and I think Montana he talks about as well. And he really focuses on, like, the main part of the book are Trumbo's Llewellyn setters. And if you're not aware, because hey, this is Go Flush Yourself, or a Flushing Dog podcast, but Llewellyn setters are like a distinct strain of English setters. They're, I think, a little smaller. They're often like white and like that black tick kind of look. If you've seen my Bridget, my Springer, she kind of has that look, only with short hair, because setters have that long flowing hair usually. But she kind of has, she's looking at me now like, what are we talking about? But she has that black ticking, and that makes me think of a Llewellyn setter. And those are the dogs that he hunts over. He talks about his 3 females. And they're kind of known to be a more close working pointy dog for grouse and woodcock. I think that's what they're kind of used for back east and in the northern woods. But in this book, Trumbo really shows how beautifully they adapt to the wide open West, namely the Palouse, but other parts of the West as well. And you can tell in this book from his writing, it's immediately apparent that his dogs aren't just tools, they're like characters in the book. They're obviously his family and their partners in this story. These essays aren't in strict chronological order from what I could tell, maybe loosely, but it's definitely more thematic, right? He's going through pheasant hunting and quail and doves for a section, and grouse and different things. And he's kind of going through those different aspects. And he's talking about specific hunts from those to describe them, like flushing coveys of huns on frosty mornings, or Chucker flying down rock faces when he's in the breaks of the Toucan. He describes the Toucan River is a river that runs through the Palouse. They're talking about pheasant hunting and that kind of thing, So what really struck me, and what I think will hook a lot of you if you read this book, is his writing style. It's easy to read. It's conversational. But it's really descriptive enough to paint a vivid picture in your head of what you're seeing. I don't think Trumbo overwrites. He doesn't bog you down with fancy prose trying to show you how smart he is, how many words he knows. So I'm sure he does, but he just lets the scenes breathe and lets you. It's descriptive enough to where you can get, what he's talking about. You can see it in your head, but you're not just reading paragraph-long descriptions of a hillside, right? He gets right to it, and I really appreciate that. This book probably could have been triple the length if he just got really flowery with his writing, but he didn't. For example, he describes a setter locking up point. You can really feel the tension and see in your head the tail feathering in the wind. You can smell the sage and dry grass. In fact, he has a whole essay on the smells that really sent me down memory lanes of when I was a kid, when I was in my early 20s to now, and how those different smells that you just associate with different parts of upland hunting, and your dogs and your shotgun and the habitat you're out in, and the birds and all of that. He talks about Palouse hills rolling like frozen waves, or he talks about how sunlight catches on a dog's coat as she quarters ahead. It's immersive without being exhausting, if that makes sense. It's really great for reading, just sitting down kind of casually reading it like I did. I just kind of sat on the couch or laid in bed and read through it, and it was enjoyable. It really was. It's not academic, like I said. It's definitely more heartfelt. He writes like he's telling you these stories, like you're on the tailgate just talking. It's a little better than what we might be talking about at the tailgate, but it's that kind of tone, right? like we're just telling a story. It's really good. But that accessibility makes it stand out in a genre where, maybe not a genre, but in a world, the upland world, where a lot of it is, tailgate shots, right? And I'm guilty of those too. I don't want to say I'm guilty. I enjoy a tailgate shot, but a lot of us do those. They're easy. You don't think to bring your camera out during the hunt. You get that picture at the end, and I do that all the time. I'm like, I'm not taking pictures. I'll take a picture of this bird on my tailgate or a dog on an empty tailgate. But there's also a lot of books like this that are like how-to books, right? And this is definitely not one of those. All right, now let's talk about the heart of this book. And it's really the dogs and the landscape. So the setters I brought up earlier, his 3 female setters, and the Palouse, which hopefully you have some idea of what that is now. It's really, really a beautiful part of the Northwest. Trumbo's love for his Llewellyn setters comes through on every page, if not every sentence. He doesn't just say, like, good dog. Like, he describes their quirks, their intensity, the way one might range a bit wider on a windy day or another 6 close when birds are tight. There's a piece where he reflects on breeding, temperament, and why he chose Llewellyns over other pointing breeds. It's clear these dogs are central to his experience of the uplands. They're not just bird finders, but they're hunting companions. And I know a lot of us can relate to that, and that's what made this book so fun to read. It kind of threw me back to when you're in grade school and you read Where the Red Fern Grows by Wilson Rawls, right? You probably read that book. If you didn't read it when you were a kid, you missed out on that. Read it now. It's still a great read. I read it maybe once a year. It's a quick, easy read. But that relationship that the character in Where the Red Fern Grows has with his hunting dogs, you get the same feeling with Trumbo here. And that's high praise. And if you've read the book, you know exactly what I'm saying. But it's this love, this companionship. And that's really what makes his hunts meaningful as his dogs. I don't know, from reading this, I'm not sure how much he would enjoy hunting without his dogs. I feel that way. I bet a lot of you feel that way. And so it really comes across as just a love letter to his dogs and to the Palouse in some ways. And the Palouse itself is almost a character in this book. Trumbo captures that kind of unique Eastern Washington feel, the vastness that can make you feel really small, and I've experienced that in Eastern Washington. If you've ever hunted Montana, you definitely feel that as well. So if you've been there, you know that feeling. The way the wind carries scent, the patchwork of private wheat fields, a public CRP. It's talking about birds flying into posted ground. He talks about navigating landowner relations, respecting those boundaries. The boom and bust of bird populations tied to weather and egg practices and all of that conservation stuff. There is a conservation thread running through it. Not preachy. It's not in your face. It's just real talk about habitat, protecting habitat, value of public lands. And a lot of it is kind of read between the lines, right? It's just like if you've read a Sand County Almanac, it's a little bit more in your face, but even then it's not for what it really does. A Sand County Almanac, it tells us, it gives you details and a love, or illustrates a love for nature that should make you want to believe in conservation and support conservation efforts, right? And that's kind of what this book does. And that's extremely high praise for Trumbo. And I don't want to say it's, the next St. County Almanac, but there's a little bit of that there. There's a little spark of that in there where you read this and you're like, these lands are important to make sure that we save and keep them the way they are, and to work with landowners and all those things. One of my favorite sections is his description of specific hunts. I'm not going to spoil too much, but there's a memorable covey rise of Huns on a crisp October morning. There's dogs slamming on point, hearts pounding, the flush exploding like popcorn. He's talking about chasing Chucker in the brakes of a 2 cannon. Your legs burning, birds calling from Rimrock. And they're not stories about trophies, right? He's not talking about this giant deer he shot, or this limit of birds. And in fact, one story he talks about not getting the limit and how getting the extra bird that would have given him the limit wouldn't have added to the hunt at all. Like, The hunt was top tier already. It didn't need any more birds in the bag. And some of the hunts he talks about end with like empty bags. It's just he talks. It's more about the journey, the joy in the dog's work, just the beauty of being out there in nature, working with your dog, and being out there participating. My words, not his, but participating in the food chain. I kind of got that feeling from him. And it ties into broader themes, really. Tradition, heritage, the American upland experience. He nods to the classics, like Grouse Feathers, Just Goldens, Bob White Brigade, but grounds it in the modern West. Definitely, it's a Western book. If you're ever curious about being out in the West hunting, this is a great book for you to read. He talks about how upland hunting connects us to something primal, to generations before, even as the world speeds up around us. There's a lot of that also, like how, this is one of the few things that a lot of us, and probably a lot of you listening, have left, that you can get away from cell phone alerts. I guess if you put your phone do not disturb while you're out there, you still might get cell phone alerts in the field. Unless you get out of cell range. But cell phone alerts and emails and work and screens and YouTube and TikTok and all the stuff, right? This is our way to get out and to get back into something a lot of us have done our whole lives, or maybe you just picked up. But it really, to all of us, it feels just like something we can't leave behind. And really towards the end is where the book really elevates for me. And where I think it resonates most deeply with a lot of us in our 30s or 40s or in our middle age in general, or maybe even people older who have been in their middle age and can think back to that time. In his closing essays, Trumbo lingers on the uplands as a place of escape, kind of like what I was just saying, not just from work or daily grind, but the noise of modern life, right? Like I was saying, screens and schedules and just everything in our modern world that just keeps us ping-ponging around. The grasslands, the Palouse for him offers silence, space, perspective, Like you walk for miles, maybe fire a shot or two, but for the most part, it's just you, your dogs, maybe the wind if you're in the Palouse, and the horizon. He turns introspective more so about mortality. Hitting middle age, he reflects on time passing, how much time is left in his hunting career. The dog's aging, right? Seasons turning. Maybe your body not quite recovering. As my brain went when I'm watching this, or when I've read this book, oh, if I want to do things, I better do them before I can't, right? Or better get in better shape to where I can do them longer. And those things start coming into focus that didn't come into focus in my 20s and 30s. It's thoughtful, it's grounded, it's real. It's a good book, and I'm singing a lot of praise right now, but it did hit on all these points. It's the kind of reflection that make you want to put the book down and just kind of stare at the wall for a minute, like, yeah, okay, I have about how much time left as I put into this, and that's how much time I left to hunt if I'm lucky, right? Like, what's important to me in this hobby, this sport. And it really stuck with me. In a genre full of limit stories, once again, not a genre, but a world full of limit stories or gear reviews or the next new thing. Trumbo's just saying, yeah, the birds are great, but this is about something bigger. It's escape, it's reflection, mortality making the moment sharper. It's poignant without being depressive, more like a gentle reminder to savor it while we can. Personally, reading this as someone who hunts in similar country here in Washington, it hit home. I've had those days where the birds don't cooperate, but the dogs, my dogs don't point, but his dogs point, but his dogs point, my dogs flush, or the view, makes the whole thing worthwhile. And yeah, as I get older, I feel that tug wanting to make the most of the seasons, like I shared earlier, and share it with my dog before they're gone. And Trumbo in this book really captures that beautifully in the last few essays. Really, really enjoyed it. So who's this book for? If you're an upland hunter, especially in the West, or anyone maybe with a setter or a pointing dog, really, if you're into upland hunting and it's the off season, this is a great pick up and read. But it'll inspire you to get out there. It'll make you, like, you already probably can't wait for the season to come back around in September. This will only help you want it to come faster. But this is a clean, evocative, authentic book. Critiques, I do have some critiques, and that's good. And nothing's perfect, right? This is a great book. I enjoy it. I'm going to read it again. I encourage you to pick it up and read it. But I do have some things. It's a collection of essays, so it could feel a bit, what's the right word? Episodic, right? Like some of the pieces feel a little stronger than the others. There's some I didn't want to end, and some I was kind of waiting to get to the next one. That's okay. That happens. Some of the themes kind of repeat, like, yep, the dogs did a good job, and the landscape's pretty, and these kinds of things. It's not a big complaint, right? That's why I'm reading it, for those things. But when you start reading the first bit, it's going to be a lot of the same themes all the way through, just different kind of birds and maybe slightly different types of cover and different ways of talking about it. But really, there's no major downside. It's a solid, heartfelt read. I really like to recommend it. If you want to pick it up, it's online. I think his website is bradtrumbo.com. I'll put all those links in the podcast description. Feel free to check those out. And as always, if you can see this somewhere at a bookstore, I'm not sure if it is any bookstores, but that's probably the best place to pick it up, as per usual with books. Nothing better than going in a bookstore. And, hey, if you're ever this part of Washington, this part of the country, hit up the Palouse. I think I need to make my way over there. I've been through there, but not hunted through there. And I think that may need to happen. I hope you enjoyed our first book review here on Go Flush Yourself. It's a new format for us. I'm not sure how many more we'll do. We'll have to get feedback from you all and let us know how you liked it. A couple reminders. Join our Discord channel if you're interested in hanging out in there, especially during the off season, and chatting about plans for next year, memories from last year, and kind of everything in between on upland hunting, especially with flushing dogs. There's a link in the podcast description. Also, if you want to support us on Patreon, there's two ways to support us. One is the $2 supporter level on Patreon. It's $2 a month, really simple, and that's just saying, I like the podcast, we want to support you. Here's $2 every month. That's all that one is. The $6 producer level, though, it actually gives you the credit of being a producer for our show, because in media, a lot of producers are just paying money to get a movie or a video game or something made, and that's what you're going to do at the producer level. $6 a month gets you producer credit, and every month that you're active as a producer on Patreon for us, we'll put your name in the podcast description listed as a producer. So it'll say host, Matt and Jared, producer, your name amongst others. We'll also link that to a social media account if you want us to, your Instagram, your Facebook, Twitter, whatever. Or your website if you want to link it there. If you're interested in being a sponsor of the show, you can reach out to us in our email. The link is also in the podcast description. As always, thanks for listening. We'll talk to you all next time.